In the last episode of Dracula, the location of the story shifted from Transylvania to England, and the other principal characters were introduced. One of the most bizarre is Renfield, a patient in an asylum directed by Dr. Seward, who is a central character in the story, connected to Lucy Westenra, Arthur Holmwood, and Dr. Van Helsing, who enters the story later. Mina, the fiancée of Jonathan Harker, and her friend Lucy Westenra are the two central women in the story. Lucy, afflicted by nightmares and sleepwalking, grows weak and ill, and her strange sickness puzzles her family and friends, particularly her fiancé, Arthur Holmwood. Here now is the fourth in a six-part series of Bram Stoker's Dracula.
The tragic events that now follow were documented by Dr. Seward, Professor Van Helsing, and partly by Lucy Westenra herself. During this period, I was recovering from my escape from the castle of Dracula. Mina came to me in Budapest, and we were married there. Later, we again entered the story, but it is doubtful that either Mina or myself could have changed the course of events that you shall now hear. Arthur Holmwood had grown ever more alarmed at Lucy's failing health and troubled sleep.
Bad dream?
I wish I could remember them. I thought coming here to London would change things.
But you looked well when you came. Enough to convince your mother to stay at Whitby.
Poor mother is not well herself. I don't want her to worry.
Lucy, my dear, you do look weak.
My face is ghastly pale, and my throat pains me. And oh, those dreams. Perhaps I didn't sleep. Perhaps I'm just tired.
Lucy, I'd like to call John Seward. I'd like him to have a look at you.
Dr. Seward? Oh, perhaps it's just the change from Whitby. We could wait.
Nonsense. I shall write to John today. We must take no chances.
John Seward, you may remember, had been in love with Lucy, and had borne his rejection in favor of Arthur Holmwood with his usual stoical restraint. But now an opportunity to be of service brought him to her side with a renewed, if only professional ardor.
I can't tell you how much I loathe talking about myself.
Arthur sent me to see you alone because, as he understood, I'm here, my dear Lucy, on a professional visit. He and I are both seriously concerned, but I'm the doctor. What you say is in confidence.
No, you must tell Arthur everything.
Well, then, you are anemic, that's clear. We shall test your blood. But is there anything else, anything you remember, anything at all?
Well, there is something. I walk at night in my sleep.
Do you remember these walks?
Not clearly. They are like a dream.
When did this happen last?
At Whitby, and perhaps last night. I remember opening the balcony window. Someone was there.
Someone?
Oh, something. Perhaps a bird. There was a sound of wings.
Well, would you mind if I brought a friend of mine to see you? Professor Van Helsing. He happens to be in London just now. We've been consulting on one of my patients. He's a metaphysician as well as a psychiatrist.
Oh, dear Dr. Seward. Am I in need of a psychiatrist?
He specializes in such phenomenon as dreams and sleepwalking. Will you let me bring him? I'll talk with Arthur as well.
I'm afraid I'm such a bother to everyone. But I will do what you say.
Good. We will be here tomorrow. Now we shall see about a specimen of blood. And if I can talk with your maid, I have something that will help you to sleep.
Professor Van Helsing also used hypnotism in his practice. And it was through notes from these sessions that we could piece together some of the visions or recollections that troubled Lucy's sleep.
Yes, you are here. I was waiting.
Yes, I am here. I come to you.
My Lord.
Your Lord.
barely conscious.
Her maid found her in this condition this morning. Last evening when I left, she seemed apprehensive, but in good spirits.
Well, Mr. Homewood, this is not at the moment a matter for psychiatry. She will die for sheer want of blood. There must be a transfusion, and at once. Will it be you or Dr. Seward?
We are both prepared, Professor Van Helsing.
I am ready.
Yes, you, Mr. Homewood. It is your right. Come now. We will talk later about the case. And do now what must be done.
Amazing. The blood comes back to her cheeks as we watch her.
Mr. Homewood, you will feel weakened, yeah?
It is no matter. I can see my blood bringing her life back.
Yes, Mr. Homewood. Blood is the life, so they say. Now then, that is enough. She will be all right.
Professor Van Helsing, the marks on her throat.
Yeah? What do you make of those marks, Dr. Seward?
Well, I noticed them before. They're more clearly defined now.
Oh, they were accidental. From a shawl, Lucy said. It happened at Whitby.
An accident? The tiny wounds have not healed. But we find no blood on her clothes or on the bed. Dr. Seward, I must go back to Amsterdam tonight. There are books and other things there that I will need.
Shall we get a nurse?
You, too, are her best nurse. Keep watch all night. See that she is fed and that nothing disturbs her. I shall be back as soon as possible, and then we can begin.
Begin? What do you mean?
We shall see. We shall see.
Oh, all over.
September the 4th. My zoophagous patient still keeps us interested. His outcries begin to arouse and frighten the other patients. I went to quiet him with a tranquilizer needle.
Good afternoon, Dr. Seward.
Well, that's better, Renfield. You're frightening the other patients.
I am quite deserted, Dr. Seward. I must find something to do.
What about your flies and spiders?
Yes, that's a good idea. I'll need some more sugar.
We'll get you more sugar.
No, never mind. I'm sick of all that. Go away. I'll think of something to do until he comes.
Who?
Oh, he'll come for me to let him in.
Who will come, Renfield?
He.
September the 9th. I feel so happy today. Dr. Seward and Arthur have taken turns watching through the last 2 nights. I had no dreams. I seem to have regained my strength. And this afternoon, Professor Van Helsing returned with a great bundle of strange white flowers.
These are for you, Miss Lucy.
For me. Oh, how lovely.
I'm afraid they are meant to be medicine.
Medicine?
We will make them into a pretty wreath to put around your head so that you will sleep well.
But these? Oh, Professor, you're joking. This is garlic.
No trifling with me, Miss Lucy. I never jest. There is grim purpose in what I do.
Oh, I'm sorry, Professor Van Helsing, but this does puzzle me. Are you protecting me from an evil spirit?
Perhaps I am, Miss Lucy. It is an ancient custom, and these have come all the way from Amsterdam for your bedside. Now, you must do as I say. Dr. Seward and I will hang the blooms across your window, like so, and around your bed, like so. Take care not to disturb them, and do not open the window. And thus we can all sleep tonight.
It is from Lucy Westenra's own diary, kept until nearly the fatal hour itself, that we know how close Professor Van Helsing had come to saving her life. One only wishes he had explained more of his unusual methods to us at the time. If he had, Lucy may have been spared the horror that was to come. She had indeed, by that evening, shown decided improvement.
September the 11th. How good they all are to me. And Professor Van Helsing, he is so fierce. Why was he so anxious about these flowers? Oh, garlic. And yet I feel a comfort already. Oh, the pain of sleeplessness. How blessed are those whose lives have no fears, no dreads, to whom sleep is a nightly blessing. Ah, there is peace in this smell. I feel sleep coming already. My dear Arthur lies across the hall. Soon. Oh, soon. shall be together.
Miss Lucy? Miss Lucy? I thought I heard something. Ugh, that smell. What is this? What are all these flowers? Good morning, Professor. Dr. Seward. Fresh coffee for you? Breakfast is nearly ready. Mr. Homewood is in the study.
Is Miss Lucy awake yet?
Well, not yet, sir. And I don't wonder.
But she deserved a long rest. But we must waken her. There are things to be done. Dr. Seward, get Mr. Homewood. I will go to see our patient.
We'll follow you right away, Professor.
Good. So come, miss. You may waken your mistress. I will come with you.
Poor dear. It's a wonder she slept at all.
It was no wonder, miss, and she needed no sedation.
I mean the racket.
The racket?
Oh, it roused me. I went to her room to see.
What kind of racket?
Well, it sounded like the balcony window, sir. Like something beating against it.
And what time was that?
Well past midnight, sir.
So, what did you do?
I went to her room and called, sir. Then it stopped.
You did not enter her room?
Oh, indeed I did, sir. And I don't wonder the poor girl was trying to open the window, what with that awful smell everywhere. Garlic. Poor dear. She must have found the blossoms somewhere without knowing. Then in her sleep, walks, you know, she tried to let in some fresh air.
Ah, how did you find her?
Oh, back in bed, peacefully asleep. But covered, sir, with the weeds.
Yes, covered. And she's covered still?
Oh, no, sir. I removed them all.
What?
And opened the balcony doors. It was such a warm night for this time of year.
My God! Quickly, come with me, you meddlesome woman.
What?
Quickly, I say. Now we will see what you have done for your mistress.
Well, I have my responsibilities too, sir. There's nothing I wouldn't do for Miss Lucy, I assure you.
Ah, see now your responsibility. See what you have done? Poor child. I'm afraid we cannot help you now.
Oh, is she?
See how well you served your mistress, you miserable woman.
Professor Van Helsing, what's happened?
Lucy, is she safe?
Lucy. Lucy! Is there nothing we can do for her?
It is too late.
Can't be. She was recovering. What happened?
We cannot bring her back to life.
She isn't gone. She can't be.
Well, there's peace for her then.
Peace? Not so, my dear friend. This is only the beginning.
No. For me, it is the end.
But it is the beginning for us. We can do nothing yet. We must wait now and then make our plans.
I can't bear to see her now. I can't bear it. I wanted only to protect her.
It's all right, Bertha. You should have been told about our precautions.
She looked so like she did before she was ill. Oh, I cannot bear to see her now. Please, excuse me.
Poor woman. I was perhaps too severe with her.
But she's right about Lucy. All her loveliness has returned. I cannot believe that she's not alive.
Yes, my dear Dr. Seward. You might almost say that she has returned from the dead. Tomorrow I want you to bring me before nightfall a set of post-mortem knives.
An autopsy? Must we make an autopsy?
Yes and no. I want to operate, but not as you think.
Operate? What do you want to do?
I want to cut off her head and take out her heart.
Professor Van Helsing, what do you mean?
You, a scientist, and so shocked.
Why? Arthur would never permit it.
I shall operate. You only assist me. I must do it without Arthur knowing, my friend John. There are strange and terrible days before us. We must work together. Will you not have faith in me?
I know you must not do what you say, for Arthur's sake, if not for mine.
Very well, we shall not operate now. But it will be done, my dear doctor, before this is finished, when you know more about it.
Actually, my wife received their message on the day of our return to Exeter from Budapest. She took the first train to London. But of course, it was too late.
I don't understand. She was so improved when I left. How did it happen?
We are not sure, Mrs. Harker. A form of anemia, although Professor Van Helsing has other suspicions.
What suspicions?
It is a tragic affair, Mrs. Harker, but you have had difficult times yourself, I understand. I hope your husband has recovered.
Oh, yes, he's recovering very well. Perhaps tomorrow he will join me here.
I am anxious to meet him. Perhaps you can help us in the meantime.
How?
With some information. You say your husband was found unconscious along the road near Borgo Pass?
He was found by gypsies and brought to a convent. He carried letters from me, and as soon as the sisters could arrange it, I was summoned.
I must question you and your husband, Mrs. Harker, and you must trust me that this is urgent.
I would prefer that you do not trouble my husband just yet. He cannot recall things without terrible stress.
I understand. Did he tell you what happened at Castle Dracula?
No, it was beyond him to remember. He still believes that it was a nightmare, that the things that happened were only his imagination.
Then you do not know.
I'm not sure. You see, he kept a journal.
And you have read the journal?
Yes.
Mrs. Harker, you kept a diary yourself while you visited Miss Lucy and Whitby Abbey. I know that from her own notes. She tried to copy your habits. Now, these notes, these journals, I must see them. I must study them all.
They are horrors. They should be destroyed.
The horrors are only begun, Mrs. Harker. I'm afraid we failed, Miss Lucy, but we must not fail again.
Again?
You will understand in time, Mrs. Harker, but I will need you all to trust me.
But how can we trust you, Professor, until we know what you are doing?
So, you will know when I know everything. Now we will sit and you will tell me about Lucy, about what happened at Whitby Abbey, and about Mr. Harker and what happened at the castle of this Count Dracula. Is that agreed now, Mrs. Harker?
Of course. I will do whatever I can to help.
I think your husband will understand the urgency.
I did indeed understand the urgency, but I was still too weak to join them. Mina gave Professor Van Helsing her complete confidence, and the little group began to assemble the documents of our story. But the professor was cautious in revealing his suspicions.
The undead? But what does that mean?
It means someone who is no longer alive, but is not dead.
I don't understand.
A vampire, Mrs. Harker.
But that's only superstition, vampire.
Yeah, and according to superstition, the vampire lives, but is not alive. The vampire lives by drinking the blood of other animals. He prefers human blood. It is a cultivated taste.
And you think that Count Dracula
is such a vampire? Yes, I think so.
How can you prove it?
By finding him here in London. We know that Mr. Harker arranged for his visit in Carfax.
He's already here?
I think we have reason to believe so, Mrs. Harker. He arrived at Whitby. You heard the story of the Demeter?
The abandoned ship.
The dog that escaped, the boxes of earth sent to London. But he did not leave Whitby immediately. I shall be frank with you both. Mrs. Harker, it was not your shawl that wounded your friend Miss Lucy. It was the mark of the vampire.
Lucy was the victim of a vampire.
It is a suggestion, Dr. Seward.
The suggestion made more horribly real during the days to follow, which began with a news bulletin from the local neighborhood of Hampstead. The police were baffled by a series of disappearances in the Hampstead Heath area. 3 children were reported missing during the past several days. In each case, the child had not returned after sunset from playing on the heath. They turned up the following morning, and when questioned, they reported being with a blue fur lady. A more serious side to this story is that the children returned slightly torn or wounded at the throat. Wounds made by a rat or small dog. The police of the division had been instructed to keep a sharp lookout for straying children.
A blue fur lady. One made it up and the others just repeated. But wounds on their throats. That is familiar to us.
Like Lucy.
Dear friend John, let your eyes see and your ears hear. Have you never heard of bats that come at night and open the veins of cattle and suck their blood?
Good God, Professor. You think Lucy was bitten by a bat here in London?
I would like you to believe things that you cannot believe in your scientific heart.
What things? The same beast that attacked Lucy is attacking the children?
No, not the same, Dr. Seward. Would it were so? It is far worse.
How many beasts do you think there are?
Perhaps only 2, but I know of only one who lured the children and made the marks on their throats.
The Count Dracula.
No. They were made by Lucy.
Lucy?
Professor, are you mad?
Madness would be easy to bear compared with this.
But Lucy is dead.
Perhaps not dead, but perhaps also not alive.
For God's sake, you're talking nonsense.
You will see this nonsense with your own eyes if you come with me to Hampstead Heath tonight.
I won't. I cannot believe what you're saying.
My dear friend, I understand your feelings for Miss Lucy, and you must not believe merely what I say. So we will go. Then you will see, and we will do what must be done.
What about Mr. Holmwood?
Ah, yes. He most of all must be there, and know all that has happened. There's no time to prepare him easily. It will be difficult.
From my own experiences at the Castle Dracula, it was possible to believe Professor Van Helsing. Lucy had been a victim of the vampire. She, too, now would lead the life of the undead. But to poor Arthur Holmwood, it was unthinkable that his beloved Lucy could have committed those crimes on the Hampstead Heath.
You're madmen. I won't allow you to disturb her grave. What you say is insane.
We only want you to see for yourself, Mr. Holmwood.
Believe me, Arthur, he will do nothing without your consent.
I will not consent to desecrating her grave.
But it is not her grave until she is dead, Mr. Holmwood.
Are you suggesting she isn't dead?
He believes that she walks, as she did in her sleep, and wanders across Hampstead Heath.
Then you do mean she is not dead. Do you want to torment me?
I say she is not dead, but I do not say she is alive.
In her coffin, she looked only suspended. The colour had come back. I could not believe to see her.
Trust me, and you will know all tonight. Now, have we your permission to enter the tomb, Mr. Holmwood?
Yes, hurry.
Have you my bag, Dr. Seward?
It is here.
Then come. With this key, we begin. Bring the lamp over here.
The flowers have all withered.
In 2 weeks, her body also would wither, Mr. Holmwood.
Here are the tools, Professor. Shall I help you?
It is not difficult. There are only a few screws, metal. Fortunately, it does not decay so quickly. Now, another.
This is appalling. I can't believe this is happening. What do you expect to see, Professor Van Helsing? Is it worth such torment?
Such torment, Mr. Holmwood, as you have never known, and we hope never will. Steady with the light, friend John. That's it now.
It's nearly dawn. The guards will be on their morning rounds.
I'm not very conscientious at this hour, I think. So, now...
Wait! I cannot bear this. Professor Van Helsing, this is cruel. Leave her in peace. It is unholy.
Unholy? We shall see now. So,
Professor Van Helsing.
What does it mean? Empty.
it means, dear Arthur, that Lucy is not here.
She's alive.
It means only that she is not here. Now you have seen. Are you satisfied?
But where...
Who could have taken her body?
Enough for now. Excuse me, gentlemen, this is heavy. We need not bother about the bolts. So, gentlemen, what does this mean? We must have more proof, no? Come with me now. At this hour, I was sure we would not have long to wait. Do you hear, gentlemen, the sound of a child?
A child crying, yes.
There's someone at the entrance of the churchyard.
A figure in white, with a child in her arms. She stopped. A mother kissing her child at this hour? Here?
Kissing? Yeah. Quickly, we must stop them.
Lucy! It's her! Lucy! Lucy!
Wait! Mr. Homewood, do not go near her!
Lucy!
He will never reach her. He must not. She's had her fill anyway, I'm afraid. Come, John, quickly. Mr. Homewood!
He's stopped. He seems to be alone.
Lucy?
She is gone?
She disappeared. Just a ghost?
No, not a ghost. The undead move swiftly, Mr. Homewood.
Undead?
It's a word that is
The
used...
child on the ground.
Ah, yes. The child is perhaps unconscious. Let me see.
Those marks on the throat, the blood on the clothes.
Now, good Dr. Seward, are you satisfied? Arthur?
No. You think Lucy did this?
Not Lucy. You must not think of her as Lucy. She's a monster. And your Lucy is in torment until we release her. Believe me, gentlemen, we have work to do. Come back to the tomb. It is growing light.
But the child.
Leave her here. If the guard does not find her, we will take her back with us when we are finished.
Finished?
Hurry now, I have prepared you enough. From here on, I take charge. Too much depends on it. So, come.
Lucy.
Yes, there she is. Look at her mouth.
Blood. Blood everywhere. The child's?
Yes.
No, I'll not believe it.
Look, and you will believe that this is not your Lucy.
What?
Look here. I will raise her lips.
Her teeth.
Are those Lucy's teeth? Is that Lucy's demon smile? Look at her cheeks. She's full of fresh, warm blood. The child's.
Oh, no.
Mr. Homewood, you see a vampire before you, and it must be destroyed.
Destroyed? How?
John, bring me my bag.
What will you do?
I shall cut off her head and fill her mouth with garlic. But first, this stake through her heart.
No.
Before we do anything, let me tell you this. It is out of the law and experience of the ancients. There comes with the vampire the curse of immortality. They cannot die, but must go on age after age, adding new victims and multiplying the evils of the world. All that die from the vampire may, with the monster's own blood, become a vampire. And so the circle goes on, ever widening. And if they die in truth, then the soul shall again be free to take its place with the angels. So, my friends, it will be a blessed hand for your Lucy that sets her free. Whose hand? The hand that she herself would have chosen.
Tell me what I am to do.
A moment's courage, and it is done. This stake must be driven through her heart.
This stake?
It will be fearful, but brief. Hold it over the heart. And here, the hammer. Hold it firmly. Then strike hard until it is done.
I have it. Firmly.
Ready, then? Now. Steady. Another strike.
Oh, God. It is done. Lucy.
Yes, my poor friend. There is your Lucy again, as she was in life. You may kiss her now without fear. Then Dr. Seward and I will finish the task. Let Mr. Homewood remain with her for a while. His work is over. There remains for us, dear friend John, a greater task, to find the master demon. I have clues to follow, but there is danger in it. You have learned to believe? You will help me?
Yes, I have learned to believe. I will help you.
There are 2 others that will join us, Jonathan and Mrs. Harker. We will meet and make our plan. Then, my friend, begins our terrible task.
The very next day, Mina and myself were offered temporary lodgings in the comfortable living quarters of Dr. Seward's asylum. Before we met, the doctor wanted to show my wife around his hospital, including his very interesting patient, Mr. Renfield.
I brought a guest to see you.
Of course, naturally. And I'm always at home for a guest, Dr. Seward. Enter freely.
This is Mrs. Jonathan Harker.
I'm pleased to meet you, Mr. Renfield.
Why?
Dr. Seward has told me about you.
Oh, yes, of course. Then naturally you are pleased to meet me. Even curious. Would you like to see my insect collection?
Oh, insects.
Didn't Dr. Seward tell you about my insect collection?
No, I didn't.
No, he didn't.
Spiders and flies, mostly.
Oh.
Are you the one he wanted to marry?
No, I am not, Mr. Renfield.
Of course not. She's dead.
I have a husband of my own.
Mrs. Jonathan Harker.
Oh. You know of me?
We were just introduced.
Renfield, Mrs. Harker and her husband are visiting the institution for a few days. I'm showing them around.
I'm a special feature here, Mrs. Harker. Mrs. Jonathan Harker. I entertain strange beliefs. They just come and go. For instance, the belief in the prolongation of life by consuming living creatures lower in the scale, as it were. It seemed like such a good idea, don't you think?
It's a curious idea, Mr. Renfield.
For the blood is the life. It's from the Bible, you know. Mrs. Jonathan Harker. Oh, I hear that name. Does your husband travel?
Mrs. Harker must leave now. We have a meeting in my office.
It's been a pleasure to meet you, Mr. Renfield.
A pleasure? Well, think of that. A pleasure.
Goodbye, Renfield. Come, Mrs. Harker.
Goodbye, Mr. Renfield.
Dr. Seward?
Yes, Renfield.
I may have another visitor this evening.
Yes, Renfield, a business associate.
You might say. I will entertain him in my quarters. It will be a pleasure, I'm sure.
Come along quickly, Mrs. Harker. As you can see, our patients have unpredictable moods and imaginings. Come quickly.